Man, look at the size of this Red Bull can. You guys see this? This is some American type shit right here. I guarantee you if I drink all this, I will have a heart disease when I'm 30. Hello everybody and welcome to 3 Random Anime. Due to the season just recently ending, I think it's appropriate at least to talk about 3 shows that I couldn't make full reviews on, but shows I just want to talk about with y'all. Those 3 shows are Higehiro, or I Shaved and Brought Home a High School Girl, Combatants Will Be Dispatched, and Godzilla S.P. If you want to only watch one specific review, you can use the chapters, or if you don't like using the new feature because you want to make life harder on yourself for some reason, the timestamps are also shown on the screen. With all that out the way, let's begin. Higehiro was a surprise of the season for me. I mean, if you look at the title, you could totally see how this is a trashy, ecchi anime, but it's not. It's actually the complete opposite. Here we have a compelling character drama about a younger girl leaving her house to live with an older man who actually cares for her. Fun fact, in Japan, it's actually illegal to do this. I'm not sure if it's illegal in the US. I'm pretty sure you probably have to do some complicated paperwork there, but my point is that in Japan, this series is quite controversial for that law. And alright, I understand it's like different countries and all that, and you know, people have different opinions, but I do find it funny that a girl leaving her piece of shit mother because of mental trauma is seen as like this huge controversial thing, but a girl having sex with multiple older men in order to get a roof on her head is not seen as controversial at all. I don't know, I'm not trying to be like a dick here, but if Yoshida actually did report to the police, which is usually how these situations end up, Sayu would have to go back to her piece of shit mother. She would have to receive more mental trauma from her and from the people at school because they bullied her for her best friend committing suicide, which would have probably led Sayu to committing suicide, or it would have led to some other type of mental disorder. But my point is that, you know, let's just think about that, alright? Let's just think about that. When you think about it like that, I don't think Yoshida seems like a whole terrible person. I'm sorry for that little rant. I just think it's dumb to hate on a show for something stupid like that when there are so much worse shit in anime. It's not even funny. I feel like the most important part of shows like these are the characters and how they grow. Yoshida is a Chad from start to finish. I mean, not only does he refuse to have sex with the underage girl, which he's already farther ahead than most anime protagonists in that regard, but he also wants to fix Sayu and to have her be a normal adult instead of a sex-addicted madman. Those were the best words I could come up with. He later learns that he is very dependent on Sayu for doing the chores and stuff, and that he's not a perfect adult himself, so it's not right for him to try and fix somebody when he's not a perfect adult himself. So I really like that about his character. I like his growth. Speaking of, probably the most important character in this show, Sayu, her development is pretty good too, in my opinion. She starts off as a girl who runs away from her problems and uses her body in order to get things, to a girl who faces her problems head on. I mean, she faces her mom head on, she faces her friend's suicide head on. But as much as we love the characters we love, we also have to give appreciation to the characters we hate, because, let's be honest here, the characters we hate are also pretty important to the plot. You have Yaguchi, who not only had sex with Sayu, please remember, she is an underage girl, but also brags about it to people. He will go around and just tell people, hey man, Sayu, she's a good get. I know he turns into a better character halfway through the series, but honestly, he harmed Sayu, and other men have died for less. But that's not even the worst. Yaguchi is not even the worst in this show, because you have Sayu's mom. Sayu's mom. Oh man, oh man. I try not to spoil a lot on this show, but this has to be said. How in the hell are you a mother and you blame your daughter for her best friend's suicide? I mean, I understand she was stressed out. There's no excuse. There is no excuse. I don't care how stressed out you are. If you're a mother and you say that to your daughter, that's just kind of a piece of shit move. In my opinion, that's shitty. That's just a shitty move. What's worse is, Sayu's mom barely grows. You know, she went from outright hating Sayu for causing her this much stress to I guess I'll have my daughter in my house, but I'm not gonna interact with her at all. She's just gonna sit there, I guess. When she finally meets Sayu, who, please remember, is a girl who abandoned her own mother's house because of mental trauma from her mom, the first thing she does is slap her. She slaps her and then tells her she wished she never gave birth to Sayu. I'm sorry, but if you can hate a character like Gabby from Attack on Titan, but you can defend her, then we can't be friends. Wow, man, I try not to lose my cool on this show, but like, it makes it worse because you got people defending Sayu's mom all because she's her mother, even though classifying her as a mother is just wrong. And you got people calling Yoshida a bad person, even though Yoshida did more for Sayu in like the year that they were together than Sayu's mom did for her entire life. Man, stuff like that gets my blood running. Oh, it's the Red Bull. Voice acting is pretty great. I mean, as much as we hate the characters, we have to give credit to the voice actors for making those characters as hateable as they are. So, Sayu's mom, voice actor, good job. You can give credit to the writing all you want, but I think vocal performance also has a lot to do with liking and hating a character. Same thing with Sayu. I thought her voice acting was pretty terrific. Animation is pretty good. Project 9 usually does good with shows like these. They also worked on Bottom Tier Tomozaki for anyone who watched that. It's kind of similar to this. They're both romance shows, but you know, obviously they have their differences. Project 9 did a pretty good job here. Even like stuff like the character design, it just seems they found their style and they're running with it. So good for them. I'll keep an eye on what they do next. Same with the director, who worked on nothing, according to Mao. He literally is a first-time director, according to Mao. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but if it's true, that's very impressive. I guess my only issue with the show is that it does seem rushed. It does seem pretty rushed, especially towards the latter half of the show. And I'm not gonna be too hard on him because, like I said, he is a first-time director, and completing an entire story in 13 episodes with a conclusive ending is pretty tough to do, I think. I mean, not everybody can be Vivi. Plus, it seems like this series has an ending. I mean, there is room for an OVA or some type of movie. I'm not sure if another season will happen because there's only 5 volumes of the manga and I just don't think there's enough content to make an entire season. But I could see an OVA. I think there is room for an OVA. In conclusion, Higehiro is a pretty good show in my opinion. It's a pretty good romance/character drama, and with Oegaru and Fruits Basket's ending, maybe it can be a new show that steps up to the plate. Nah, saying it's on the level of Oegaru and Fruits Baskets, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is gonna age very poorly. Plus, it's not even a long series anyway, so. The third anime of Natsume Akatsuki is kind of similar to his other shows, Kimono Michi and of course Konosuba. Before we do get started on this show, I should probably say that you should probably watch Konosuba before you watch this show. Not only because you will understand how Natsume Akatsuki does comedy writing, but also because there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of Konosuba references in this show. So just a little warning before you pick up this show. You should probably watch Konosuba before you do. Now, there will be a lot of comparisons to Konosuba because honestly, these two shows are very similar. It's kind of tough to avoid comparing them to Konosuba. But one thing I do think this show has over Konosuba is the story. Instead of being a parody of isekai, which at this point is becoming more oversaturated than isekai itself, it takes more of a unique approach, in it being a more sci-fi comedy than just another isekai. And keep in mind, this is someone who calls Konosuba his favorite show. Besides the sci-fi aspect though, it's mostly the same as Konosuba. The ragtag group of idiots has to defeat the Demon Lord, only instead of being heroes, they are villains. I do think the word is pretty interesting. They do a pretty good job explaining the rules and how everything works in this new sci-fi words. The characters are where you'll see most of the Konosuba comparisons because most of them are just downgraded versions of Konosuba characters. I won't call them rip-offs because I think they're too different from the Konosuba counterparts to be called rip-offs, but some of them, you kinda can't ignore the similarities here. So, Here we go. Snow is a money-loving, useless, but sexy girl, kinda like Aqua, but minus the god complex. Number 6 is a perverted main protagonist, kind of like Kazuma, but Kazuma wishes he could be as scummy as number 6 is in this show. And keep in mind, Kazuma once stole a girl's panties and swung them around in the town. We're talking about that guy, and yet he can't even come close to number 6 in terms of being a perverted scumbag. Rose is a chimera who loves to eat and can turn into the things that she eats. It's kind of like that one dude from My Hero. I don't know his name, but I know for a fact there's a character in My Hero who has a similar type power. People compare Rose to Megumin, but honestly, besides their childlike appearances and them not being humans, I don't really see the comparison. Grim is an archpriest who works with curses and can revive dead and stuff, kind of like Wiz, but Wiz was super nice and super shy all the time. Grim is not that. She is the opposite of that. And finally, Alice, who isn't really comparable to anyone from Konosuba. She's pretty unique. So, yeah, you can kind of see how they're like Konosuba characters, but again, I think they're different enough to not be called straight-up rip-offs. So, I like the characters. The comedy is also similar to Konosuba. I mean, like I said before, there are a lot of Konosuba references. Konosuba references are all over the place. I mean, number 6 says explosion at one point. Alice calls number 6's dick a Chun Chun Maru, which I found that kind of funny. Not saying there isn't like unique comedy in this show, because there is, I'll get to that in a bit, but I kind of want to talk about Alice, because she is by far my favorite character in the show. Her dead but monotone delivery to everything number 6 does, like all of his messed up antics, it's just hilarious to me. I love the contrast between number 6 and Alice. This show's comedy is kind of like Konosuba's, but amplified. I was even surprised at how many lines they crossed. Konosuba wishes they crossed as much lines as this show did. Konosuba didn't even come close to some of the lines that were crossed in this show. I mean, I remember one scene that in my head right now, that where the princess is showing off that she can learn magic too. And she learned how to water bend. And what she does is, when all the characters aren't paying attention to her, she squirts on the floor, like, you know, yeah. She squirts on the floor, and, like, nobody realizes it, so they all think she can do magic now. And so, like, that's her thing. And that was, it's like, Konosuba never came close to anything like that. Also, the OP is fire. I felt like I had to say that somewhere, because it really is fire. I mean, I love the jazz. I love jazz openings. Jazz openings are top tier. There are issues with it, the biggest one being animation. The animation isn't, like, bad or anything, but it does seem bland. There's not much, like, standout moments in this show. Like, there's just not much memorable about it in animation-wise, and I don't know why JC staff thought they could make 2 shows in one season, but they need to stop that right now because they are not at that level. The director also worked on Those Snow White Notes, which is a beautiful show. Those Snow White Notes is definitely a beautiful show, but it does seem like Combatants Will Be Dispatched was put on a back burner compared to that show. So try not to make 2 shows in one season again, because this show could have really used some better animation. You know, this is a whole new world, you know? Like, I want to see the beauty of it. Combatants Would Be I keep on saying Combatants like it's a P. Combatants Would Be Dispatched is a pretty funny show. I would watch it if you enjoyed Konosuba and Kimono Michi like I did. The love child between Bones, Orange, Toho, and Netflix is finally completed, and I do think the expectations were a little too high for this show, especially since, you know, you have 2 top-tier studios, you got Netflix back in this, and Toho's in there as well. Godzilla S.P. is definitely well thought out when it comes to story. I mean, the amount of science, technology, just big brain words that are in this thing. I never thought I'd say this because it's kind of like a douchebag thing to say, but you do kind of need a higher IQ to watch this show. I mean, you can watch it anyway if you're dumb like I am, but having a higher IQ would definitely help. Ugh, man, I just feel like a Mao reviewer just saying that. Ugh. You know how Dr. Stone is a pretty complex science show, but it does hold your hand through it for people who don't understand or are not that interested or just not good at science. And the whole goal of the show is to show off what science can do, Well, Godzilla S.P, there is no hand-holding. There is no hand-holding, there is no, oh, look at this, here's some interesting science stuff. No, like, it expects you to know everything that's going on here. And it does hurt your head a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, it does hurt your head. Going through all this science nonsense and all these big brain words that just, this is not something you can just casually watch. No, you have to pay attention to every little dialogue, because if you miss something, that thing might be important to the plot, so you really have to pay attention, and that can really be taxing. And with all like the science that's in this show, it can definitely make your head hurt. It will probably make your head hurt, because it definitely made mine hurt a couple times. A positive though is that the action is pretty great. Most of it is in the latter half of the series, but it's pretty good in my opinion, and the kaijus are animated pretty well. The CGI on them is really good, really detailed. I mean, what would you expect from Studio Orange and Studio Bones at this point? They are two top studios for a reason. It's almost like the action scenes are like a brain break. Like, you know, here's all this science nonsense for most of the show, and then at the very end you get all these action scenes, and it is like a brain break for me. Back to my point about the kaijus, because I feel like it is important to kind of mention this. There's barely Godzilla in it. I mean, for a show called Godzilla S.P, Godzilla doesn't make his way into the show until like the final half of the series. So just expect that, you know, you're gonna see pterodactyls and you're gonna see a lot of other kaiju monsters, but Godzilla doesn't come until the very end. And I don't know, I think he should have had more of an impact on the show. He is like discussed a lot, but we don't really see much of him until like the very end. We don't know the power of Godzilla until the very end. And he does lose. He does get beaten. So you barely really see the power and the destruction of Godzilla. I do enjoy a slow build for the final fight, but just expect Godzilla to not be in the show that much. The soundtrack is a plus as well. I mean, it's definitely one of the better soundtracks this anime season. The OP and ending are really entertaining, and the music for the action scenes and that one lullaby that you keep on hearing, which is studied over and over again, is a pretty haunting but catchy tune. The last thing I'm going to talk about are the characters, because they're okay. It's kind of tough to like characters that just dump information on you. There weren't any characters I loved, but there also weren't any characters I flat out hated as well. So it's just meh, in my opinion. The character designs, though, are pretty nice. I do enjoy that style. Honestly, Godzilla S.P. is a show that it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. If you're expecting like an action series, you know, Monsters Go Brr type series, then this is not the show for you. You need to actually steer very clear away from this. But if you want some science and some technology in your anime, and you just want to watch a really well thought out story with some good action scenes, but they're too few and far between, then this is probably your show. It's probably better to binge watch this anyway than to watch it weekly like I did. And that's 3 random anime for you. I have another one of these coming out, I don't know, either the next week or two. I also have a couple weeb reviews planned. Just some big things for the summer, you know, big plans. I'm off school, so I get to really focus on making videos. I'm going to try and do them weekly. But that's it for 3 random anime. I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. My name's Kikaya. Have a good time.